Let's go to the 20th verse. Here's the seventh descriptive term for the Bible, which is in the 20th verse. And this is what it says: "My soul breaks with longings for your judgments at all times." Here's another descriptive term: your judgments, in verse 20. The NIV calls it laws, the NAS calls it ordinances, but this Hebrew word, no matter how they translate it, is used 23 times in the 119th Psalm. And it speaks of God's divine decisions, what God has decided about something. You know, if you're under authority, if you're under someone's authority, you go to them and say, well, what have you decided? What are you going to do about this? I mean, if you're involved in a financial transaction and you are subservient to someone else's will, you say, okay, what have you decided? How do you want me to proceed? It's your money. If someone is running a company, you say, what have you decided if you're working for them? God is the one in control. The Bible contains His divine decisions. Now think about that. You and I are servants to the King of Kings. And if we want to be His good and faithful servants, we should regularly come to Him and say, what have you decided about that? I mean, you've already thought about it. What have you decided about what I should invest my life with and who I should spend my life with and how I should spend my strength and my time and my money and my mind? How do you want me to do that? What have you decided? See, that's what this word decisions is. His divine decisions. And so what this judgments word in verse 20 speaks of is it's how to build our life, how to be building our life upon the unchanging decrees of God, His divine decisions. They're always true. By the way, if you're at all involved in technology, you know, if you don't stay on the treadmill, you will soon get off. You have to constantly, upgrade. You have to have the newest version, the newest edition. In fact, even, the Tulsa World, you go out and there's the morning edition and the evening edition. I always wondered, does it say something different? Did I buy the right one? Should I buy both of them? I don't want to miss anything. And that's how life is. I mean, every time you get something, there's a newer edition, there's a better, there's an updated, there's a revised, there's an upgraded. And you know what this book is? It's never upgraded. There's never a newer version. There's never a later edition that's got a little more in it that you didn't get. God has already given His decisions on everything, and by the way, He doesn't change them. Isn't that neat? So if you learn them young, you can have them throughout your whole life. And they were so valuable. They are always true. And they vindicate, it says, they vindicate our lives. We should be building our lives upon the unchanging divine decisions that are always true. And that word is used 23 times in this psalm. And the eighth one is in verse 38. And by the way, verse 38, this is one of those that the scholars talk about. This one's only used once. And the least used of all. And it's from the 119th Psalm, where it talks about the Word of God as the fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. But it says in the 38th verse, these words, "Establish your word to your servant who is devoted to," and then it's just the word fear. And so the ancients felt that this was another synonym, and I would agree that this, in light of the 19th Psalm, speaks of the Word of God as the divine condition of fearing God. If we look on His Word as the divine condition and we practice it, our life will be clean and enduring, and it'll get us ready for the Bema seat. You know what's so interesting? I was always fascinated when I traveled to the Middle East, and especially to Jerusalem, and especially my favorite part of Jerusalem, the Old City. Bonnie always has to say, honey, don't buy more of that stuff, please. And I say, oh, honey, I love buying that stuff. And so I'd just buy spices, and I just love the smell of that stuff. And I remember last trip over there a couple years ago, I was just buying spices and everything. I threw them all in my suitcase. And you know how it is when you get home and unpack everybody's suitcases, you don't unpack everything. And I left one, I don't know why, but it left it under the bed unpacked. I mean, it was never unpacked. In fact, it wasn't even opened. And that was in April or May of 2001, and I think I found it in about July. I was sweeping. I went, what is under there? And I looked, and there was a suitcase. I said, oh, honey, I found a suitcase. Opened it up. You know my spices I bought? Oh, worms were crawling through them. In fact, worms had changed into butterflies, had laid more eggs, and they made more worms. And I mean, it was just the grossest, all my spices. And I threw them away, and I said, honey, you were right, but why did it do that? And she says, they don't do what they do in America. We have all these poisons we put in everything, BHT, preservative. I think it's just poison. So no bugs and worms and eggs grow, and then they radiate them sometimes, and they heat them high heats. But over in the old city, they just put in the stuff right off the plant and put it in a package, worms and all. And it decays. Now look what it says here. If you live in the divine condition of fearing God, it makes your life clean and enduring. Nothing decays. You can work your whole life in the fear of God, and everything you do fearing God, this book tells us, is going to last forever, and it won't be ruined by worms and decay and burned up by the fire. So that's another synonym, the divine condition.